Hey everyone, this is just going to be a hastily thrown together, hopefully unedited video where I talk about how stats work, what primary stat allocations actually do, and a small bit about hybrid scaling. The game does absolute fuck all to teach you all of this. To start off, you have four available primary stats on Ascension. You have Strength, which increases your attack power. This should be 1 point per strength. Agility. This increases your crit chance and your armor. Nothing else. Intellect increases your max mana and crit. Spirit increases your out of combat health regen and mana regen while not casting. That's it. Now that we've actually established what these stats do baseline, let's take a look at primary stat allocations and how they interact with their namesake stats. First up, strength grants you bonus strength, and each point of strength now also increases your attack power and parry. This means that instead of gaining 1 point of attack power per strength, you gain 2 plus some parry scaling. Next up, agility grants you bonus agility, and each point of agility now also increases your attack power, critical strike chance, and critical strike damage. As mentioned before, agility only granted you crit and armor previously. Now, I do think the tooltip is slightly redundant here since it already increased your crit chance before, but more importantly, if you select primary stat agility, every point of agility will also grant you 1 point of attack power. Lastly, it also mentions critical strike damage. This part is not really documented anywhere in game. You basically have to ask a dev to know this, but I'm just going to put up the math used to calculate it on screen. TLDR, at level 60, you need increments of 120 agility to increase your crit damage bonus by 1% and 140 agility at level 70. Next up, intellect. Now this, along with spirit, is the thing that most people, especially new players, trip up on, and the primary reason why I made this video. Because their names are incredibly misleading. So far, you've had two primary stats, where stacking your namesake stat was directly related to your throughput through attack power. In my opinion, these should be renamed to Caster DPS and Healer respectively, but why exactly is that? Let's read what it does. Grants you bonus intellect, spirit, and spell power gained from items and effects is doubled. To sum up the first part, you gain 2 flat spell damage, 2 intellect, and 1 spirit per level. Now the more interesting part. Spell power gained from items and effects is doubled. Absolutely nowhere in the tooltip does it mention that intellect increases your total damage throughput, just that the effect of spell power is doubled into spell damage. Uh, Spell damage being the real stat that your spells and abilities scale with damage wise. If you, let's say, have an item with 50 intellect and 0 spell power, that's not going to increase your damage at all, unless you have specific talents and REs that give you spell damage based on your intellect, such as Mind Mastery or Lunar Guidance. Lastly, primary stat Spirit grants you bonus healing power, intellect, spirit, and each point of spell power now also increases your healing power. This is the same exact deal as intellect, stacking spirit, unless you have specific talents which scale off of it, does absolutely nothing. Because remember that the only thing spirit does is increase your out of combat health regen and mana regen while not casting. So even if you take talents which give you healing power or spell damage based on your spirit, if you don't take talents or abilities that let you regen while casting, you are not going to benefit from that part of the stat. The primary takeaway from both of these stats is that you don't need to stack your namesake stat to be a viable caster or healer. This is exactly the reason why Spirit DPS and intellect based healers are a thing. I'm not going to get deep into these. Okay, stats done. Good. Hybrid scaling. Yes, it exists. Your abilities and spells scale from both attack power and spell damage, even your auto attacks. Thanks for watching. So, Editor Jin back here, I forgot to mention one very important part, uh, is that ranged attack power and normal attack power are completely different things. Ranged attack power only comes into account when doing calculations when it's a hunter-related ability. Otherwise, you always use melee attack power for spells. This is why hunters are kind of like the redheaded stepchild of Ascension because they have to have their own stat basically that they scale off of. And yeah, no one really likes hunters. Uh, One more important thing is that if strength gives to attack power, why don't people just go strength hunter? Because it's not a real archetype. Uh, the bonus you get, like the baseline strength you get, that you always get even without the primary stat, this only improves your melee attack power. If you have primary stat strength, that additional strength applies to both your melee and ranged attack power. Meanwhile, agility baseline adds it to both. So there's no real reason to stack strength as a hunter. Yeah, that's about it.